Welcome to episode 4 of this tutorial thing. We're going to be doing some pause buffering today. Let me just scoot up. And if you don't know what pause buffering is, it's something to where Jack can't be put in a cutscene for as long as the pause buffer is active. So you'll know when the pause buffer is active when you'll see that the health in the top left corner is, well, it doesn't have a number next to it. That's when the pause buffer is active. Let me show you real quick. If I can pause buffer. There you go. So you see the health in the top left. There's no number next to it, meaning that you are unable to be in a cutscene for as long as it's active, and it's active for 2.5 seconds. So this pause buffer is very useful for skipping cutscenes, as you might have guessed. So first off, to start, how to do a pause buffer. So there's 2 ways to do it. My preferred method is pressing R2, so this back trigger right here, and start at the same time. So by doing that, boom, pause buffer, done. Lasts for 2.5 seconds. Now the second way to do it is to do L2 and start at the same time. So this button down here, and start at the same time. Now, there's a reason I don't prefer it this way, because it's not on the same hand. You know, I press L2 with my left hand and start with my right hand, so I don't like that method as much, but it works for some people, and that's all that matters. Okay, so some no-nos to pause buffering. If you have this little menu up right here, you can't pause buffer while this is up, right? If you physically have pressed L2 or R2 before you try to pause buffer, right, it's not gonna work. So there needs to be nothing on screen for you to do this. However, there is an exception. Let me go to Blue Sage real quick. So sometimes when you can see your health in the top left corner, you can still pause buffer. So like you'll see often when I go and do Blue Sage cutscene skip, there's usually some health in my inventory, right? So the health is showing right there, and yet I can still pause buffer. So now you'll see that there's no health in the top left corner, right? However, I still got to pause buffer. It's also really laggy over here, Jesus Christ. So if you've gotten health and you pause buffer directly after, don't worry. Even though the health isn't showing, you are still pause buffered. Okay, that's just another thing that I had to show off. Okay, so the uses of pause buffering, right? For a Blue Sage cutscene, there's 2 different ways to do Blue Sage cutscene, or at least to start it out. I started out with pause buffer, and then I hit the button, and then get close to the portal, and then it automatically pauses me. And there's all you have to do here is just save and load, and that's how you get started with Blue Sage cutscene skip. And then you'll save and load back here, and you'll do another pause buffer, and then roll out of the bubble of the Blue Sage cutscene skip. Although I will talk about Blue Sage cutscene skip another day. Just gonna show off some uses of the pause buffer. Pause buffering can also be used to skip power cell cutscenes on zoomers. Although this one isn't very applicable. I don't think there's any power cells here, but it's usually the scout. Okay, I got all the scout flies in this level. But if you pause buffer the last scout fly in a level, you can also you can skip that cutscene. That, you know, it's not very useful, but just a use of pause buffering. There's also Red Sage cutscene skip, and Red Sage cutscene skip is kind of like. So, okay, the idea of Red Sage cutscene skip is that you pause buffer and then you die while you're in the pause buffering, while you're in that pause buffer state, I guess, for that 2.5 seconds. Yeah, that's kind of the general idea of most cutscene skips. So yeah, they all begin with a pause buffer. So that's why it's very important to learn. All you gotta do is just press R2 and start at the same time, or L2 and start at the same time. That's it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't think I need to cover much more with pause buffering. So yeah.